Welcome back. Thank you guys for joining us again this week. We're back in the beautiful studio here at Bruce's house. Thank you so much for letting us sit up down here.
Absolutely.
Man, really enjoyed our conversation last week. We got into some of your story last week, and we kind of threw a teaser out there that maybe this week we were going to dive into the deep end a little bit.
Oh, this will be big.
I think it's going to be really big. I hope you have your floaties. Just as a curiosity here, when did you learn how to swim?
Oh, I could tell you the story of my dad throwing me into the deep water and I either swam or drowned, but that's not true.
Well, that happened to me. So I was just wondering if
it happened to like 5 or 6 million people in the United States. I don't know. I started swimming. I was probably like 4 years old.
You probably come out swimming. Is that
pretty close to that?
Close?
Yeah, I was pretty comfortable with it.
So if you'll indulge me, I was about 6, 7, 8 years old, and there was this beautiful place that we used to swim at. It reminded me of something you would watch in an old 80s movie. It's called Blue Springs. It was right just up from Effingham County, Georgia, and it had this long diving board. The diving board was a mile long, and it had so much bounce in it. And I wanted to dive so bad, and I wanted to learn how to dive. And my parents just took me up there, and then one of them was further back, and they kind of stomped on the diving board, and it kind of flopped me in. And it was quite deep, yeah. It was crystal clear water, though.
How'd you do?
I actually don't remember. Okay.
Blocking
out some of that trauma, right?
Yeah.
But I'm alive, so apparently I survived. So we're going to get into the deep end this week,
Okay.
and you and I have an affinity for really cool stories, and I like those that are a little bit off the beaten path, those stories that you find in the Old Testament, especially Judges. Man, I love the stories about Shamgar and all of those guys like that. Stories of King David and his mighty men of valor. But there's one story that you and I both, we really are just really drawn to. You know what that is?
Yes, the prodigal son story.
Absolutely, the prodigal son story.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorites, and it's actually a pretty deep story.
It's a very deep story. I know that in my life, I haven't always seen the prodigal son story. I've not always read it the same way.
Right.
One of the things that I learned I had a few times when I attended class at seminary, and one of the things that a professor told me once was that we tend to read the Bible through the lenses of our experience.
Right.
And the prodigal son story is no different. I mean, you can take 10 different people.
Right.
And have them read this story, and there's going to be something that jumps out to them from this story. I know that there have been times when I've been the prodigal son.
Yeah.
I've been that son.
I think we all have, right?
Right.
I mean, we like to say this is a very particular story, but it's really not.
Yeah.
And it's not so much about the son anyway, but we've all been there.
So, of all of the stories that Jesus tells, and he's got some really, as the young kids would say, he's got some bangers out there, right?
Yeah.
And this is the one that, to me, I feel like just really hits and resonates strongly with so many people. I mean, have you ever just like talked to people about this story?
I have. Yeah. You can say 8 people in a room, and they will have some tidbit of information or something that they saw differently from the other person. I think Jesus did that on purpose.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So what do you think his purpose was?
Well, I think all people have different experiences, and that story resonates for all experiences.
So the part of the story for me for such a long time that I really just leaned into was that wayward son. I have some wayward tendencies about me. I don't always walk the straight path, and I haven't always walked the straight path. We've had a lot of these discussions, and we have you've shared some very astute observations from just me opening up about that. But there's one guy in the story I think that just gets really overlooked. You know, the story is often called the story of the prodigal son. But as I get older in life, the more I look at the story, I think it's more about the forgiving father.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean,
Yeah, and it's not just a forgiving father; it's the steps that got him to the point where he was.
yeah.
He goes running down the road toward his son.
And that was something that the head of their families, like the patriarchs, weren't supposed to do that. That was,
Yeah.
that was an insult.
Right. That's right.
Not only that, but he hiked his robe up
And he ran.
and he ran.
Not supposed to do that.
Not supposed to do that. Not as the dude of the house, right?
Right.
And he was definitely the dude of the house. I can't help, man. I can't help the moment that my oldest son Logan was put in my arms.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this story just took on a whole new light.
Right.
Like, I've always seen the frustration of the younger son living in the shadow of his older brother, trying to set out and define his own path, trying to be his own
Right.
man,
Right.
and failing miserably. But it was just several years ago, 20-something years ago now. That's several, right? That this story really just took another turn.
I can say the same thing. When I first held my son, it was like, boy, this story takes on a different meaning.
Now, you got two sons, right?
I do. Two
Yeah.
boys. Yeah.
How old are they now?
Old.
Old enough?
Yeah.
So we won't get into how old you are and how old I am and maybe how old they are, but this something happens when they put that son in your arms, right?
Yeah. It's different.
I had a lot of parents. I was youth pastor for a while. I don't know if you know that, but I like working with kids a lot better than I do adults because they're a lot easier to handle and a lot easier to deal with. And I had dads and moms whenever I would take their kids off on youth trips and stuff, and I would talk to them about their concerns, about don't worry about it. We're going to have a good time. Nothing's going to happen. And I had several of them turn to me and say, one day you'll understand. And I just kind of laughed it off.
Right.
And then when they put Logan in my arms.
And it's kind of interesting. I remember my oldest son. They put him in my arms, and at first my arms were stiff as could be, and I didn't know what to do. And then once I got that head of his into the V of my arm,
Right.
it just felt like this is where he belongs.
It's like your whole world just stopped.
Absolutely.
Right there, right? Everything
Right.
slowed down.
Right.
Everything was in
Yeah.
perspective.
Responsibility is different when you
Absolutely.
reach that point.
So I know I'm throwing some new material at you. We kind of diagrammed where we wanted this conversation to go, but I need to know this one question. When you put him in the crook of your arm right there and you looked into his eyes, what was the biggest fear? The biggest worry?
Am I going to be a good enough father to protect him?
Yeah. Wow.
That was my big one.
You're a better dad than me. You want to know mine was, I hope he grows up to be a Georgia Bulldog fan.
I figured you were going to say that. I've heard some stories about you and the early days with Logan and football games.
So the first time he was in my arms was during Georgia LSU's SEC championship game, and they nearly had to restrain me because I was getting too excited, and I had him in my arms right there. I had a kid, right, that he tormented me. This was the only time that I hated youth ministry. He would come up to me when Kim was big and pregnant and getting ready to have Logan any day, and he would come up. He was from Ocala, Florida. His name is Jimmy.
Yeah.
I love him like a son. I'm so super proud of Jimmy. But he would come up and he says, "I'm going to teach your son how to do one thing when he gets here." He says, "I'm going to love him and I'm going to teach him to do this." He was the biggest Florida Gator fan.
Florida
right?
Gators. Yeah.
So I was terrified. I was terrified that he was going to win Jimmy over, and all I ever wanted, he was going to win Logan over. Jimmy was going to win Logan over, and all I ever wanted in life was to sit there and enjoy the things that I love in life. Just wanted to share it with my kids, right?
Right.
You know what I learned out from that, and I know this doesn't seem like this has a point. The thing I learned was I didn't need to worry about that. I didn't need to worry about Jimmy having more influence on Logan than me.
Right.
I didn't have to worry about Logan growing up to be a Florida Gator fan, because all I had to do is love him, and he was going to fall in love with the things that his daddy loved.
Right. Yeah. My perspective was a little different. Okay, and the reason was, if you go back to our first Pathway Stones podcast, I talked about the distance between my dad and myself. And my dad was, I know he loved me, but not a great father, had substance abuse issues. So I'm sitting there thinking, boy, am I gonna be able to do this?
Yeah, right.
I didn't have a great model, so I'm gonna have to wing this, and I was probably a little afraid of that.
I can definitely see that. Were there things that you did as a father that was directly affected by those insecurities?
Yeah.
Yeah. What were some of those things?
Being very protective, trying to keep an eye on everything that was going on, trying to read signals, but a lot of it came back to my ability to be able to parent. I was concerned about that.
So you and I have talked about the father in the prodigal son, and one of the things that I love about having conversations with you, especially about the stories that we are just drawn to in the Word, and is you have a very unique way of just seeing the story just come to life. For a really long time, I read the stories on the page, and they were very flat.
Yeah.
You have a unique take on this, that there's parts of these stories that everybody misses.
Yeah.
Will you share that a little bit with us?
Yeah. So I think when most people look at the prodigal son story, they look at it in two dimensions.
Yeah.
Right? And it's really focused on basically the bad behavior of a rebellious son, right? And people dwell on that part of it. Certainly, he did things he shouldn't have done, right?
Yeah.
He took inheritance, which, quite frankly, his father shouldn't have gave him,
Yeah.
right? He went off and blew it all, ended up with the pigs, with nobody around, no family around, and he finally had an aha moment and said, you know what? The servants back home,
They live better than
they
this.
live a whole lot better than I do. I wonder if I could go back and be a servant. So, people focus on that, and it's great. It's a great story. But at the end of the day, I think where people miss it is what's going on back home with the dad.
So there's a whole nother level of emotion that's going on there.
Right.
I think the first time that I really noticed that was when I saw the son living with the pigs, right? And just like you said, he has this moment of clarity, this aha moment, and he starts practicing. He does something that I had done 100 times before in my life.
Right.
He starts practicing his apology.
Yeah.
Right.
What am I going to say to Dad when I get there?
And he gets it down, down pat, right? He's like, well, I'll go home and I'll say this, and I'll say this, and nothing plays out the way that he had planned.
Right.
He had this great apology laid out, and what we see take place there is the father's not interested.
Right.
He's not interested in the, Dad, I did so wrong. Dad, I'm a horrible son. He is more interested in the fact that his son's home.
Yeah.
And man, he's just like he cuts him off mid apology, and he turns to the servants and he says, "Go get the fatted calf. We're partying tonight.
That's right.
Get a robe,
right.
get a ring,
That's right.
and
no expectation from the son
none.
that any of that was going to play out.
And the gratitude and the gratefulness of the father. So I had another professor that was talking about this story one time, and he really started bringing some things out, and he said in those days, the son, because of the way that he dishonored his father, that he should have been taken outside and stoned.
That's right.
And killed. Right. And what we see from the father is that he runs to his son
and he protects him.
And he falls on him.
Right.
He covers him
right.
and shields him from
right.
anybody that would start throwing
right.
anything.
That's right.
And he does exactly what the role of what the mother... See, in those days, the mother would be the one that would run.
Right.
And she would beg for mercy and let him at least go live a life of
right.
solitude,
Right.
Let him be banished.
Right.
He can still be dead to his family if that's what you want, but at least let him live, right? Right. And we don't see that with the father. Right. The father goes and he falls on him.
And, it's an interesting angle. I've often thought this, because I really gravitate to the father, and we'll get to why.
Yeah.
But I wonder if he ever rehearsed what was going to happen if he ever came home. Did he have it played out in his head? I'm going to be so excited when he comes home. I'm going to forget about what happened. I'm going to make this a day of honor and celebration. I wonder if he thought about that, or was it just in the moment?
If it would have been me, you know how hard it is for me to. We talked often about how hard it is sometimes for me to shut my mind off at night,
right.
and how I just rehearse everything over and over.
Right.
I can't help put myself in the father's shoes, right?
Right.
Man, what is that? And every day when he would walk up the stairs to the top of his roof and neglected his duties with everything else, he delegated, let somebody else handle it, because his one concern was to be ready if his son started back that day.
And I think he stood up there every night looking for him.
Every day, every night. I think it defined who he was.
Right.
It had to.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Can you imagine what it must have been like for the father on the day that his son come to him and said, "I don't want anything to do with you"?
What a major slap in the face.
Had to be.
Right. And I think a lot of people don't understand the culture, right? Which was his future was set.
Already.
Right?
Yeah.
His future as son, even though he's not going to get the inheritance of his older brother,
right.
His future was set.
Yeah, he
came in and said, "You know what? I don't want any part of this. I just want my money.
Yeah.
And I want to go.
The only value you have to me is what you're going to leave me when you die."
That's right. That's right.
And man, that must have... I can't imagine a worse day for a father.
Yeah. Bad day.
I mean, it had to be up there on the horrible, no good, terrible, very bad day.
Right.
And he just... the heartbreak.
Absolutely.
I mean, when Logan was laying there in my arms and your son laying there in your arms, could you ever imagine that one day he would look you in the eyes and say, "I don't want anything of what you have to offer me"?
I didn't then.
Yeah. You've had some pretty bad days too, huh?
I've had several bad days.
So we're going to take this and we're going to say that you have I'm going to let you imitate my best friend bucket, and you can just have a bad day bucket.
Okay.
And we're not going to define which one was the worst. We're just going to say these were the worst days, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a story that, man, I'm telling you, part of your life that I don't know, Bruce, that I don't know that I could have handled it. Well, let's just why don't you share with us about the worst day of your life?
Yeah, so the worst day of my life, and obviously there's a background story that we'll get to.
Yeah.
Right. But the worst day of my life was my youngest son, and I went to get him out of bed. It was going to be the first day of school. Right. Went to get him out of bed, and I opened up his door. Of course, it was dark in there. And I go to stir him, and he wasn't there.
He wasn't in his bed.
Wasn't in his bed.
How old was he?
He was 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was running through your mind?
Well, I mean, at first it was like, okay, so he fell asleep on the couch, or he's in the bathroom, or
So you started going from room to
room
looking for
trying
him,
to find him.
expecting that the next door you open up, he's going to be behind.
Right, and he wasn't.
And every single time you opened up the door,
No one was there.
what happened when you got to the last door?
I went back, started all over again. What did I miss?
Wow.
Did he fall asleep in the closet for some stupid reason? What was it? And the reality was he was gone.
He was.
No sign, nothing.
Wow.
Gone.
Wow. I can't even imagine.
Well, I would say one of the 2 worst days of my life.
Yeah.
And what goes through your mind, right, is, okay, what do I do next? Where do I go? Who do I call? You know, obviously I went and got my wife up and said, do you know anything about where he is? Did he decide to sleep at somebody's house that I wasn't aware of? Or
So you started making phone calls to all of his friends.
I started making phone calls to all his friends, and nothing. And of course, we're talking about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Right?
First day of school.
First day of school.
Not something that you were expecting.
Not at all. Went to my older son, woke him up. Do you know anything about this, Aaron? He's not here. He goes,
Wow.
I don't know a thing. He was up late. He goes, I remember that, but I don't know anything. Wow, bad day.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people have bad days. And I don't want to diminish anyone out there that's listening, and I don't want to take away from any of their stories, any of their testimonies, because they're all vast, they're all different and full of their own complexities and their own struggles.
Right.
But there's no fear in this world. I'm glad I didn't know this story the day they put my son in my arm.
Right.
Because my fear would not have been whether or not he's a Georgia Bulldog fan or a Florida fan.
Right.
My fear is, how am I going to protect him?
Right.
You know, how am I, when I don't even know what to protect him from?
Right. And if you think about what I told you, what my first fear was with my older son, it was now coming true with my younger
With
son.
your younger son. Wow. Give us a little bit of backstory. Fill in the blanks.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your son. What were some things he was into?
He's a good kid.
Yeah.
Involved in church. Pretty sensitive kid.
So you guys were attending church.
Yeah. I was on the board at church. I taught Sunday school. We were very, very deeply involved.
So he wasn't running Cincinnati streets with the Crips and the Bloods?
No, none of that stuff. No, he was a church kid.
Church kid.
Yeah.
Man.
Had a lot of good friends in the youth group. Of course, he was in the younger age of the youth
Right.
group. I think things are going pretty well. And
Normal father-son relationships?
I'll tell you, if I go back, I mean, there's certainly things that you can always second guess and things you
of
could have done
course.
better, and you could have been less involved in church and maybe your job and more involved in this or that. All those things, come to mind. But, he was a good kid. We did things together. We went fishing together. He was into music, so we listened to music together. He loved to read. I'd read books to him every night. I mean, it was that kind of normal stuff. He had a friend in the youth group. His name was Matt, big tall kid. My son was in 8th grade at the time, and they were very close.
Yeah.
Right.
Best friend?
I would say best friend or one of.
Yeah. So he had a bucket.
He had a
was in-
bucket
he's
of
in the
friends,
bucket,
right?
Yeah.
So we get a call one night, and they said the youth pastor called and goes, there's been a tragedy with Matt. And I said, well, what happened? He said, well, Matt, big tall kid, 8th grader, but big tall kid, was dunking a basketball, hung on the rim, the pole snapped in two, the rim came down and hit him in the head.
Oh my gosh.
And he's in intensive care. They don't know if he's going to make it or not.
And this was at church?
No, this was just, after school.
After school?
After school. But so I said, well, what do we need to do? Obviously, there's prayer. And then it was like, I got to go tell my son this.
Yeah.
And I don't want him finding out somewhere else. So I sat him down and said, look, this is what happened. And
How did he handle it?
Didn't handle it well. His
Yeah.
immediate thought was, we got to get to the hospital.
Yeah.
I said, they're not going to let you see him today. Because I knew what was going on.
Right.
He was on life support, all of this. And he said, but you got to take me the next day. I said, I'll take you the next day. So we go there and I said, look, you need to be prepared
Yeah.
for what you're going to see.
How do you prepare your son to walk in and see this best friend?
Yeah. You can't. I mean, you try, right? You try to say all things. He's going to have tubes, breathing apparatus. He's probably not going to look like the guy you know because of what happened, a lot of trauma. You know, it's not going to be. You're
It's not going to be pretty.
He's not going to be pretty. You're not going to be talking to him because he can't hear you.
Yeah.
Or he might hear you, but he's not able.
He's
to
not going to
respond.
talk back.
So we get there. The whole youth group's there. You have to wait our turn to go in. We go and see him, and he walked out of there devastated.
Oh, wow.
Right. Devastated. So we head home. All the way home, he's crying out to God. You got to heal him. You got to heal him. You got to heal him.
Yeah. I mean, we believe in that. We believe in divine
That's
healing.
right. That's right. All night long, crying out. All night long, crying out. 2 days later, Matt passed away.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And then
From a basketball accident.
a freak basketball accident.
Wow.
And then the cries were different. It's like, God, why did you let this happen?
Man.
Why did you take him from me?
Gosh, as a father, I just those are some of the worst days on the because you want to fix things.
Yeah, and I want to fix, right? I mean, that's what I am. I'm a fixer, right? So life was never the same from then on.
Wow.
Right? Never the same. So kind of what happened was he was so devastated that he couldn't go back to school. I mean, he was just completely out of it.
So this happened just prior to
getting out of 8th grade and going in to be a freshman in high school.
Wow.
So we went and met with the teachers at school, and they said, look, there's 20 days left in school year.
Yeah.
He's a great student. It's okay for him not to be here.
Yeah. Wow.
And he'll graduate from 8th grade. He's a great student, so no problem. And he'll just move right in to his freshman year of school. So we navigated that. The summer became really hard.
Absolutely.
Right? And he became very belligerent with me, because I wasn't able to solve this situation.
You couldn't fix it.
I couldn't fix
The
it.
one
How
guy
could you
he
let
had
this
always-
happen, right?
Yeah.
It was like I became, enemy number one. So we had a really tough summer. And I'll tell you, I probably did some really bad parenting that summer where I went from, you got to get over this, to overcompensating for his sorrow.
I mean, what parent is ready for that?
I wasn't prepared for sure.
I don't know that they don't prepare any father.
Right.
When they lay that son in your arms for the
Right,
first time. There's no handbook that says, hey, here's the right things to say.
Right,
It'd be a lot easier if they did, right?
Yeah. So he became very withdrawn.
Oh, wow.
He spent a lot of time on the computer,
Yeah.
which turned out to be
Now, this is during the summer,
during summer.
the time
And-
that the kids are supposed to be
Yeah,
enjoying, going on
he's
trips.
not
and
enjoying, right?
hanging out with their friends.
Yeah, none of that was going on. He was pretty withdrawn.
How did you said he went from praying God heal him to God, why would you let this happen?
Right. He was very angry at God.
Man.
And I couldn't fix that, right? I just figured it's going to have to run its course, right? So he was like on the computer at night, and I kind of just let him be because I just felt like he needed that space, So I kind of, I watched, as much as I could what he was doing, who he was talking to, all of those things. And, we just kind of muddled through it, and then we got to late August, and things for about a week got better, right?
When school started back.
School hadn't started back yet.
Oh, not yet. Okay.
Not yet. But, his attitude was better
Yeah.
and all of that. I didn't know why. And then when I went to wake him up and he was gone, because of things looked better, I was totally caught off guard by what happened. The fact that he was like gone, and no idea what
Okay.
to do.
You got to give me just like this is. I feel like I'm on an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, it's.
I mean,
I get you.
we started off and you were telling me about your worst day, and then all of a sudden you walked me through all of those days that leading up and the as a father, I'm just sitting here imagining, the inadequacy.
Can't fix it.
It can't fix it. I mean, it's naturally wired into us to
Sure.
protect and
Sure,
to
absolutely.
defend and to provide. And here you are in this moment. You've been taken out of the game.
Yeah. I mean, my parenting skills were not, in my mind, up to snuff.
Yeah.
For what he was going through, and I don't know what I could have done differently. I mean, I've always, kind of armsure quarterback that thing.
So you just made a statement that reminded me of something we talked about last week. That we were talking about your own personal childhood, and the question come up: if you could change anything, if you could go back and change anything. Now the stakes are a lot higher. It's not just about you.
Sure.
Now the question gets really real. And I don't even want an answer right now because we've got a few more minutes that I want to. I've got to get to some more things about this day, the worst day, right?
Right.
But I mean, for me, if it's about me, I can struggle through it. I'm really good at surviving the suck, right? I can make those comments that I wouldn't change anything. But now when you bring my kids into it and the suffering and the pain that they've gone through, now the question really hits, the rubber hits the road here. Right. Do we really stick to those things that we say we believe? That everything in front of us is either a stumbling block or it becomes a stone that God uses to path our way to his providence, his goodness that he has for us.
Sometimes I'll say this, and it became a big realization for me, and that is, sometimes boulders becoming pathways takes a while.
Oh man, yeah.
And you don't really know, even though you're sincerely praying that it turns out that way, you just don't really know what the outcome's going to be.
It's hard to trust the process.
And here's part of the thing is, there's only so much I could do. He had to navigate things, and I couldn't navigate those things for him. And he's 15 years old, and he's navigating stuff that he shouldn't have to.
Oh yeah. And that makes me, and I don't want to get away from the worst day. The big question that I asked, tell us about your worst day. But it makes me think of it's really easy to say, I'll take the stones that have been stumbling blocks and let God use, but how do we walk that when we're not walking alone? Right. Because we can make that choice for us. But if we're yoked up with other people that are going through things, we're walking through some of the same, and if they're stumbling, it affects us, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that maybe they haven't gone through your worst day.
Sure.
Right. But it takes nothing away from the days. Right. We're
all different. We all got different stones.
So I'm thinking specifically. There's this. One of my best friend's sisters. She calls me her Big Bubba. Right.
Yeah.
Her name is CJ, and her husband's name is Brandon, and they're one of the most amazing couples I know. They love each other.
Right.
Brandon is just this huge giant of a guy that just his heart is bigger than him. I don't even know how that's possible.
Right.
They're just great together.
Right.
But a couple of years ago, they walked through this season where they found out that their son was fighting cancer.
Yeah. And
I'm sitting here and I've watched them walk through this journey together, and man, they've lived out our conversation. Right. They didn't wake up one day and and go running room looking for their son, but they woke up one day with a doctor telling them that, I don't know if your son's going to make it.
Right. Right.
His future is uncertain. And in those moments, I mean, I've got more respect and more honor and more love for those guys, watching them walk through this with faith. And I knew there had to be days where Brandon could do nothing but just hold his wife and say,
Right.
this isn't the end. We got to trust God. And then there had to be days where CJ, because CJ's a pretty tough chick, would turn around and Brandon may be having a bad day and just saying, hey, this isn't the end of it. We can get through this. And,
You know, it's interesting you say that because I think a lot of times people look at this like there's just this one linear thing going on,
Absolutely.
but there's not, right? I mean, you're trying to keep yourself
right.
straight. Your older son has no idea what's happened to his brother. The mother is a basket case, and you have no idea what's going on with your son. The son who's in trouble.
Do you think for a moment that maybe there were days, and this just hit me, okay? I never thought about this until literally just right now. You think there were days where maybe the father had been standing on the roof. Maybe it's been 180 days he's been up there faithfully. And he was going to the next door hoping to see his son.
Yeah.
And when he walked through that door, it was the last place he knew to look. And maybe it was his breaking point. Maybe there was a day where he was just not even want to get out of bed because he knew what the day held.
I think that's true. I mean, I can tell you, I went through that, right? I mean, I went through that. As you know, we'll go through the story. It'll get even more crazy as we go through it. But there were times it's like, I don't know if I can hold this together for anybody.
Yeah.
Right?
Man. That's horrible.
That's reality.
Okay, so we're coming pretty close to our soft cap here, and we're a little flexible with our time, but we're fixing to do another episode, and
Right.
and we don't want to spoil that moment. Here's the reality of it is that storms come after all of us.
That's right.
None of us are immune to it, and a lot of times when we start walking this walk of faith that both you and I adhere to, you know, when we start trusting in God and we ask God to be Lord of our life and to cleanse us from our iniquity and our sin, and a lot of times we have this idea that everything's going to be a bed of roses from here on out.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is that that's not why God offers us this relationship.
That's right.
I don't know what you leaned on in that dark morning. I know how the story ends, right? We've had this conversation, so I do have that benefit. But in those moments, and I'm sure this is probably some of what your son was wrestling with, I trusted you with my life. I trusted you with my friends. I trusted you with my future. And I expected it to walk out this and look like this. And now it's
right.
drastically different. Like, are you really there? Do you really even care?
Right.
Like, I gave you my life. How can I trust you with my life when obviously the things that I love the most, you have no... I prayed that you would heal my son, my best friend, right?
Right.
And I just...
Yeah, you know, so it's kind of interesting that you say what you just said, because, you know, I questioned God.
Yeah.
I said, and you know, and a lot of it was, God, you got to help me figure this out, right? And it's you hope that your walk has made you combat ready.
Yeah.
That's what you hope.
Man,
the
words of David ring out in my ears right now. Lord, you teach my hands how to battle, and you prepare my hands for war, and prepare and teach my fingers for battle.
Yeah.
And
And you know, here's the thing. you in that moment of understanding how far south things had gone, right? How
Yeah.
bad they were. You can't stay just spiritual.
Yeah.
You have to start becoming action oriented.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you can sit there and say, okay, God, just bring him back to, today and everything's going to be fine. It's like, what do I got to do?
Yeah.
And how am I going to do that? And how are you going to help me do that? And so it was a lot of questions like, God, I've been trusting you. I didn't expect this to happen. I didn't think everything was going to be great. But now, how do I navigate this? Right? Because I can't do it with my own understanding.
I think we do ourselves a disservice, and we do our families and our loved ones a disservice when we let them believe that if we just give our heart to God, everything will be okay.
Right.
And that's not why we do it.
No.
When we give our heart to God, it's not that everything's going to be okay, but it's that He gives us the strength to overcome anything that comes our way. If God is for us, who can be against us?
And I will say this. I know, after looking back on all this, there's a distinct difference between how I handled this because of my walk than somebody who doesn't have that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I pity the person who doesn't have that hope.
Yeah. So if you're listening today, we're gonna briefly talk about where your son was. We won't get into the rest of the redemptive part of this. We'll just, because I don't think we need to leave these guys wondering where the son is.
Yeah.
But before we do that, I just got to say this: if you're listening to us, and if you've been tuning in and you've been wondering how in the world you're going to make it, God never promises to take us from the storm.
Right.
But He promises to take us through the storms. I love the words of the 3 Hebrew boys when they were facing King Nebuchadnezzar. And they said, the king told them, if you don't bow down, I'm going to send you into the fiery furnace. And it's hotter than anything you've ever experienced. And my servants have died just stoking the fire up because that's how furious I am with you right now. And their words to the king was this: O king, our God is able to deliver us from this fire.
That's right.
From your hand. Right. But even if He doesn't, we'll still never give in. We'll still never compromise. We'll still never worship you. Our God is able to, but if He doesn't rescue us from the storm and He wants us to walk through the storm, we're going to trust Him in that. And I know those are easy words to say.
Yeah.
But I promise you, the words of Paul are faithful. And the words of Paul are true. That says, God is faithful, who will not allow us to be tempted or tried beyond what we're able to stand.
That's right.
And with that temptation, He always makes, and with that trial, He always makes a way of escape.
Absolutely.
So our prayer is today is that you would just trust Him. Trust Him with the storms.
Exactly.
If it hadn't been for the fire, they would have never had an encounter with the pre-incarnate Christ.
That's right. Absolutely.
And they came through it not even smelling like smoke. All right, so real quick, let's give them a teaser. Let's give them a little bit so that they're not up all night wondering about what happened to Bruce's son. Where was your son?
He was on his way to California.
What do you mean he was on his way to California?
He'd been on the internet
Yeah.
with somebody who turned out to be a predator. This guy won his confidence. He told my son, hey, steal your dad's credit card, steal all the money you can. I'll help you buy a plane ticket, and we're going to fly you out here, and you're just going to hang out with me.
Wow.
We found out that had my son got all the way there, we would have never seen him again.
You would have never seen him again.
That's right.
Wow. So there's more to this story, and we're going to get
absolutely.
into that a little bit, because there's some frustrations that are boiled into this about not being able to get help from local police and having to, there's a lot of God moments that happen in this story and divine intervention. But I just didn't want anybody not losing any sleep,
Right.
because they were wondering, were they ever going to find Bruce's son, right? So I'm going to pray, and then we're gonna end this episode, and everybody will just have to tune in next week.
Yeah,
to
don't
find
miss the next one.
out. It's gonna be it's gonna
It's
be
a
really
doozy.
good. Yeah, Father, thank you so much for your grace and your mercy. God, I thank you that you're always faithful, even in those moments when we don't understand. God, I pray that if there's anyone there that is questioning whether or not you're faithful and you're worthy of trusting, God, give them the heavenly courage just to dive in with both feet. Don't hesitate and just trust. Lord, I know that there are often times that our plans and our purposes and the things that the way that we feel like life is going to turn out, God, it doesn't look like that in the moment. But Lord, help us to lean in and have the courage to trust that you love us and that you'll cause all things to work for our good. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Love you guys. You'll have a great week.
Take care. Bye-bye.